Okay, folks, does it really take 71 days to sell a property in Fife? Let's discuss this. Whether you're a landlord, a Fife landlord looking to liquidate your buy-to-let investments, or a Fife homeowner looking to actually sell your home, finding a buyer and then getting the legal work done can be a frustratingly long time. It's really a step-by-step process. It can take many months. One of the worst parts of selling a house is not knowing how long you'll be stuck at each step. Independent research shows that in the last 12 months, every estate agent in the UK has taken an average of 67 days from the property coming to market to be sold subject to concluded missives, and then another 113 days to get completion. In other words, keys handed over. That's nearly 26 weeks from the board going up. That's right across the UK on average, literally taking almost 6 months from the board going up. I mean, this journey can be a long one and not guaranteed. Nationally, only 52.8% of UK homeowners who placed their homes on the market in 2023 sold and actually moved. Therefore, I'll explain each stage of the house selling process in Fife in this blog. Here's the first stage, finding your actual buyer. You need to instruct an estate agent. Of course, we can help you with that. But we will discuss the pricing and the marketing strategy as well to get help help you to find a buyer who actually fits your circumstances. Now, this is the key here. Independent data actually shows that in the last 3 months, it has taken on average 71 days in Fife to agree a sale. That's subject to concluded missives. So it's taken 71 days. That's just over 2 months. That is no surprise when you think about the logic of that. There's about 1,000 properties on the market. There's about 500 properties that sell every single month. So there's 2 months worth of stock. So the average would be clearly 2 months, which is round about 62 days or thereabouts, depending on what month you're using, in case anybody's getting a bit detailed about this. So 71 days isn't unusual and it's no surprise overall. But remember, it's an average. Somebody's got to be longer and somebody's got to be shorter in that scenario. Yeah, I've stated in my other blogs and vlogs, and the Fife property market is, is like a fly's eye. It's split into many micro markets. And looking at independent research, which is only focusing on Fife, is what it was thought provoking to see how many different price levels and different micro markets there are currently performing, and we would consider the average number of days it takes to find a buyer in the property for a property in Fife. So here's some of the key statistics by price banding. The average time to find a buyer, for example, in Fife for sales agreed, subject to concluded missives, um, in the last 3 months. Let's look at this data. And I've got it in graph form, but I'll run over with it out just now. So up to 100,000, it's taken 59 days right across Fife. From 100 to 200,000, it's taken 52 days. From 200 to 300,000, it's taken 81 days. From 300,000 to 400,000, it's taken 96 days. From 400 to 500,000, it's taken 102 days. From 500,000 to a million, it's taken 138 days. And for a million over, it's taken 206 days. Now, is that any surprise? However, if you dive into microregions, let me just tell you how long it takes in Glenrothes, for example, on average, 15 days. Price point has got a lot to do with it. Remember, Glenrothes is a buoyant market, and it's a quick market because a lot of the prices, the average price in Glenrothes is a lot lower than the rest of Fife. It takes 60 days to sell a property in Cooper, which is around about the 2 months. 17 days in Leadmouth, again, fantastic price point in Leadmouth area. It takes a wee bit more. It takes quite a lot longer in St Andrews, but it's just 24 days in St Andrews. And in the East Neuk, it takes about 78 days. Is that a surprise? Because remember, East Neuk has skyrocketed over the last 2 or 3 years in terms of price point. So let me just show you then graphical form what that actually looks like. So here we are right here as we go in. So here is the under 100,000, 50 days, 100 to 200,000. It's taken, as I said, it's taken the 52 days. And then we're on to 200 to 300,000. We're at 8 to 1 days. So you can see that how that climbs up. But there's a pattern there, isn't there? There's a curve. As you see that just moving up, there's a curve that goes up. So in other words, as the price goes up, it takes longer to sell. Now, most of you will be saying, is that not just common sense? But the problem with common sense, it's maybe not that common sometimes. And this is why I show this and actually demonstrate this clearly in graphical form and obviously in analytical form as well. So then I looked at the same data and calculated the price band, which had the highest proportion of properties for sale. So the highest proportion of properties for sale. In other words, if we've got 1,000 properties, how many of these 1,000 properties are in the 100,000 price bracket? How many are in the 100 to 200,000 price bracket? How many from the 200 to 300, and so on and so forth? You get the gist. So, for example, in Fife, up to 100,000, there's 271 sales agreed, and that's 20.22% of properties sold in Fife in the last 3 months. The 100 to 200,000 represents 553. That's 41% of the properties sold in Fife right now. The 200 300,000, 293 properties sales agreed. That's 22%. The 300 to 400,000 is 116 sales agreed. That's around about 8.5%. 400 to 542 is 3%. 500 to 1 million, 4.7%. And 1 million over is 0.15%. Very few houses in Fife are 1 million and over are on the market right now and under offer. So again, let's look at that in graph form. And I'll roll this on and show you in a pie chart. Pie charts, love pie charts. They're very, very informative in terms of what we see here. So here we are here, and you can see quite clearly, again, we've got a similar situation. Everything up to 100,000 is 20%, and then 100 to 200,000 is 41%, and then 200 to 300 is 21%. And you can see it's getting smaller, that pie chart, as it goes round. So it starts round here and works round clockwise and goes all the way around to here to the million over, which is infinitesimal, which is you don't even see the thing really. So that kind of shows you in a pie chart form which properties are actually selling the fastest and which are the most popular, which is the price banding of 100 to 200,000 and 100,000. So everything up to 200,000, everything up to 300,000 currently represents round about 82, 83% of the current properties actually sold on the market right now. As I said before, it's 80 odd percent. When you think about that, that is the majority of the houses that are selling at 300,000 and down, because their affordability is a lot easier in comparison to the ones that are 300,000 and upwards. Because look at that, the 300,000 and upwards is just a small proportion. It's almost the whole lot, if a wee bit less than the 200 to 300,000 in its own in itself. So it just shows you right there how long it could take to sell a house on the market, but how quick each price bandings go. So I'll flip that back again. I'll let you see that. So there it is. As the price goes up on offer, it is sold, the number of days to sell goes up. And then as the price goes up, you'll find that the market starts to decline for the number of properties actually sold and bought at that price point as well, in comparison to the other price points in these brackets. So hopefully that's given you a really good insight into the Fife property market and what's actually going on in it. So now you've secured the buyer, what is actually next? Well, selling a property in Fife involves a variety of typical issues and the involvement of a wide and varied range of professionals. This means huge differences exist in how long it takes for one Fife property to another. So the second stage, once you've sold your property and you've got an offer accepted, the estate agent will take it and they'll send it on to the solicitor to do the conveyancing, which is the rubber stamp. Again, we can suggest the best local solicitors in Fife because we work with a lot of them, and I only endorse people I've actually used myself personally. So if I've not used myself personally, then I won't endorse them. If I have used them personally and I get good service of them, and they're really good at what they do, and they're really at a good price point, I will endorse them to people. So any solicitors you're needing, just give us a shout and we'll be able to put you in touch with the right people that we've used already and we know they're good and a good price point. So as well as a home seller, your solicitor compare your home's initial legal paperwork, which with your help, and then send it to the buyer. But you'll have a home report done already as a result of that. So and we give the solicitors a heads up as soon as we put your house on the market. So therefore, they've got all the titles together and they're kind of ready to go, and they can catch anomalies that happen in between. Now, I was out to someone today, and we talked about this, and they talked about how a solicitor they had previously left it all till last minute and almost 2 weeks before it was due to conclude. Now, this was about 5 months in from it actually selling and doing all the legal paperwork. Eventually, when the entry date came along, 2 weeks before the entry date, they turned round and said to the sellers, "Oh, by the way, you've got a bedroom over the pend, and that bedroom isn't on the title. So we're going to have to contact the land registry and change that." Now, let's be honest. That should have been noticed in the very beginning, the 5 months before that, as soon as that house was on the market, and as soon as they downloaded these titles, they could have inspected them quite easily, and they could have rectified and then be able to speed up. So things like that can often frustrate the selling process if the solicitor doesn't do all the due diligence in advance and leaves it till the last minute, and it can happen. As I've just said, when I relayed that story about what happened with a client I was out to today in St Andrews. So we can instruct a solicitor for you. So your first port of call, as I said before, is you find a buyer, which your estate agent can do for you, and then you will instruct a solicitor and obviously arrange mortgages if you're looking for a mortgage for yourself, or you've got mortgages for the buyer as well. We make sure they're in a position to do something. If they're not, then we'll make sure we point them in the right direction to make sure they've got the right lawyer, they've got the right mortgage broker, to get them in that position for you overall. So after instructing the solicitor, and the solicitor is doing the conveyancing, the legal work and the survey should be taking place. So once your buyer solicitor receives the paperwork, they apply for local searches from the local authority and the land registry to ensure that no roads or airports, etc., are being built in the back garden. I know it sounds daft, but you know, it might happen. You could end up find out and get, there's a plan for a housing estate to go over the back of you, or there's a plan for a field at the front that you think you're going to have a wonderful view open to the Firth of Forth, and then all of a sudden the housing estate goes up right in front of you. It has happened. I've seen it happen just outside the back of Cooper, where somebody actually got that, and then they didn't realise the next field next to them, once their home had been built, the next field was getting zoned for housing as well. So their view over the countryside towards East Lomond and the West Lomond and the Lomond Hills would be obliterated, just like that, with these houses that are going in front. That then gave them enough information to make a decision whether they should go ahead with the purchase or not. Now, these searches can actually take several weeks to be returned from local authorities and land registries. You can understand that. It's a bit. Some of them are a bit antiquated system. Land registry is quite good actually. A lot of it's online now, so they can get easy access to it. We can get easy access to it as well, and so can solicitors. Which means, when often I get people saying to me things like, "Well, I'll just have to go back to that solicitor because they hold my deeds to my property." Well, you don't need to because all your information and your land registry title is held at the land registry itself, and anybody can download that remotely for the price of £2 or £3 ultimately. So it's easy access to get that, and so you don't need to keep going back to the solicitor just because you think they've got your deeds. A lot of solicitors and a lot of banks and that got rid of all the old deeds as well because they didn't want to spend all the money storing them. I have a mountain of them in a drawer, and I should really just get rid of them because they're no use to anybody because they've been replaced with newer ones and updated ones. So, the land registry, from which questions will be raised by the buyer solicitor to your solicitor. So that's what they do. They exhibit all the information in the local searches for the local authority and the land registry. They exhibit to the solicitor as well as a coal report, often in the Fife area, because there have been a lot of coal mines over the years. So there's often a coal report that goes with that as well to make sure there's no mining works that are unstable. Coal reports are it's just like money for old rope. Or I get the impression it's just I'm convinced it's just the same coal report every single time, and they're just selling that every single time and making money out of it. So at the same time, the surveyor will check the property to ensure it's structurally sound and worth the purchase price. This is typically the buyer's bank will still give an assessment. They might look at your home report in Scotland. In England, it doesn't apply, obviously, because there's no home report. So they will have a surveyor that goes out and does this and assesses it on what they call a Scheme 1 valuation for the bank. But the banks, if you've got a mortgage, will often do that as well and actually instruct a surveyor on the bank's behalf to go out and just double check that that valuation is an accurate valuation and is the property as it is. So once they've done that and you've got all that together, the next point of call is what we call exchange of missives or completion of missives. So assuming the mortgage, the survey, and the legal work is without any issues, both the buyer and the seller then go to conclude the missives. And the solicitor then performs what they call an exchange of missives. When the missives are exchanged, the buyer then, sometimes the buyer can pay a non-refundable deposit, but often in Scotland, you don't bother. It's just a concluded missives, a bargain is concluded. That means now that both buyer and seller are legally tied in and there can't be any withdrawal. A bargain has been concluded overall. So hold on, we aren't there yet. There's completion to go next. So exchange of missives and conclusion of missives and that bargain conclusion typically is often left to the last minute. I don't know if you've ever been in a solicitor's office, but when I used to go in a solicitor's office, it was piled high on either side of the solicitor with files. And literally, it was a case of you went down to the bottom unless you started to go ask questions, and then your file went up to the top, and then it got looked at. That's the experience I used to have with solicitors. Whether that's actually changed, I do not know. I get the impression from other people's discussions, maybe it hasn't changed as much as it should do, and as much as automation and being able to access everything online would lead you to believe. So that often happens at the conclusion of missives, and the bargain concluded gets done maybe a couple of weeks before it's actually due to complete, which could leave it open for the buyer to pull out any time they want with no repercussions at all. So this is often why you want to get on your solicitor most of the time and actually just make sure you push it forward as the seller. Make sure you push your solicitor forward to get the concluded missives as quick as possible if everything's in order and you're ready to go. So they can't back out at the last minute. It can happen. When you typically have a longer entry date, this is when we talk about the deposit. When you have a longer entry date, sometimes you should insist of a non-refundable deposit on concluded missives, just in case that actually happens. So if the buyer pulls out, then you've obviously got compensation for the length of time you've had to wait as a natural result of that. Now that could be anything from 1,000 to 10,000 to 15 to 20,000, depending on what property you've got. Typically before, in the past, I have a 10,000 non-refundable deposit because the entry date was 12 months from the time of the sale actually being agreed. So in other words, 12 months was the entry date from that. So in order to avoid the buyer pulling out or any repercussions of the buyer pulling out and the loss to my client, the seller, I then insisted on a £10,000 non-refundable deposit and conclusion of missives as quickly as possible. This is often, as I said before, when they get to last minute. Could you imagine agreeing everything and then my seller goes and buys another house and then suddenly finds out at the last minute, at the 11th month, after 11 months has passed, that the buyer is no longer in a position to do anything and they're just going to withdraw from the sale and you can't do anything about it. That's why you want concluded missives and non-refundable deposits on occasion. But again, take advice from your estate agent at that time. So stage 5 is the final stage. It's completion day. That's keys handed over. Completion is when money and keys are handed over. It usually happens a week or a fortnight after the exchange of missives. See what I said about, leaving it to the last minute exchange of missives. Yet since lockdown, it can happen at the same time as the exchange of missives. Uh, in essence, the buyer solicitor sends the purchase money to the seller solicitor, and once that money arrives, the keys can be given over to the buyer. Now, in Fife, it currently takes around 7 to 8 days from instructing the solicitors, that's at stage 2, to completion, stage 5. So comparing to 113 days nationally. So Fife solicitors are actually very, very efficient in comparison to the national figure of 113. Fife solicitors are actually doing all their legal work and putting everything together and concluding the bargain and actually getting the completion within 78 days on average, as opposed to the UK average being 113 days. So to conclude, if and finish off here, if you are at a good 5 to 6 months from putting your house up for sale and moving out, and if you're thinking of selling your Fife home or your Fife landlord wanting to sell your buy-to-let property or even a second home, that's coming up quite a lot because obviously council tax bills are going out for second homes now, and some people are actually paying, most people are actually being told you're paying double council tax now. Now, for somebody that's in a Band E, that could represent about £6,000 extra a year in council tax. That's a hefty bill. So you've got a lot of second homeowners now actually deciding, probably now is the time to sell up because I don't really need the property that much. And for £6,000 you'll save on the council tax. You can go on a fantastic holiday for that. Holiday of a lifetime for some people. So it's maybe worth actually doing that if you're in that position, or maybe going into mainstream renting instead of having your second home for yourself. Then just go put it into mainstream renting and rent it continuously, so all the liability for the utilities and the council tax become the ownership of the tenant that actually moves in and the responsibility of them as well. So if you want an informal wee chat or no obligation and to ensure that you get a decent price with minimum fuss, then just message us here, or you could phone us on any our contact numbers: 01333 421 774, 01334 65 42 21, or 01592 75 2000. And until next time, guys, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV. Bye bye for now.